And welcome back, students, to our last lesson in CSS that we're working on today, which is the cascading style sheets property of border radius. And what border radius does, it helps us to eliminate some of this boxy look that we have. And I produced 3 examples here. You don't have to use these exact examples. Obviously, you can manipulate the value. So like if you wanted this to be like 5 pixels or anything like that, you can do that. But just for some general, able to see how these elements work, you can go ahead and do that. So let me just go ahead in here and I'm going to apply these different elements in here. So for example, we're going to do these using the ID tag. So let me show how that works using the div ID tag, and I'll explain it a little bit here. So I'm going to do this to my paragraph element here. I'm going to say P, I'm going to add ID equals, and I'm going to put in here R corners 1. And you can see that it has added that property to that paragraph element. And what this one has done, if you look at it, it has affected the background color primarily. That was the big thing that it affected here. You'll notice that these are kind of similar in how we set this up when we did the class system with like where we had the paragraph.1, paragraph.2. But this is not using class, this is using div ID. And this is usually the way most of the things are done, because it's just, you just do ID equals and then whatever the name of it is. You don't have to necessarily worry about some of the names. But this is a good way to do things as well. Let me just show a couple more of these examples in here. Alright, and I went ahead and jumped in and put the R corners 2 element in here, and I did it around the header of my web page here. And you can see it added in a nice little box border around that, because this one is affecting the border property. If we look back at that second R corners here, and of course, this is set to 25 pixels, so it's not hard. So let's say if I wanted that just a little small, if I wanted like 15, you can see how changing that value will affect the amount of that curve. So like if I decide to make this, let's say like 50 pixels, you can see it makes it much more round. So the larger the pixel value, the more it's going to curve the whole shape. And of course, the height and width are all set here, so maybe I want smaller height. I can just come in and change the height value. So now it's only 50 pixels instead of the 150 that was. Right? And similar here, if I want to change any of these values, maybe I want to change this one so it's only 10 pixels. You can do that as well. Or maybe I want it also to be 15. I can do 15 pixels. Or maybe I want 20. All these elements are adjustable. Of course, you have to be careful when you're working with some of these. Like width, I have right now set pixel values. Maybe you don't want to do it that way. Maybe you want to do something a little bit more percent. That's possible, but again, that's kind of up to how your web page looks. You just have to remember to keep mobile devices in mind when you're working with these. And let me just see if we can find one for R corners 3 here, which it has to deal with the background of the element. So if we can find a element that we can stick that in on, let's see if we can stick that into our, let's put that in our section tag here, and so section ID equals quote R corners 3, and you can see it's in there. There's my giraffe image, but you'll notice it doesn't seem to be that large or all the way there, and that's because we didn't like scale down the image or anything. It's trying to put the whole image in there. If I wanted to maybe see like the whole image again, I could of course come right up here to my body and do it that way as well. Rather than code out for body, I can also code out this way. Quote R corners 3. And you can see now the element is in there. And even though we can't really see the rounding effect because the body is a pretty large element, it also gets applied this way. So you can also apply IDs to like your body and stuff like that. So pretty much almost any element inside the body can have ID applied to it. And again, I have a couple more examples up on my webpage. The important thing that you need to know when you're looking at these values, though, when you're doing the border radius, is you'll notice that there are typically 4 sets of values in here. Right? And the number of values kind of determines how the property gets implemented. And the 3 examples that we've shown kind of all utilize one value. But we can look at other examples of these. So you'll notice like these border radiuses is all just 1. So I could easily come in here on this one and add other values in. So maybe instead of just like 25 pixels, maybe I also want to define say 15 pixels in here. You can, of course, you can do those different things. So if I do that, you can see it changes the style here of how that web page looks. So when I have two values like this, the first value is applying to the top left corner, and then it's going to, you'll notice that it's also going to apply to the bottom right. The second value is applied to the top right and the bottom left. If I move this into three values, so let me just add in something like 10 pixels. When you have three values, the first value is applied to the top left, the second value is applied to the top right, and then the bottom, the top right and the bottom left, and then the third value is just the bottom right. So you kind of, again, it's going clockwise around. And then if I added one more value, you probably can already expect this, of what's going to happen. But I'm just going to add in 5 pixels. And you can see now that last bit there is not quite as curved. And of course, if I just change it to, let's say, it's F5, maybe I want to make it something more unique. Let's make that 12. You can see how that easily will change the curve of that element. So it's just different ways you come in and stylize your web page to give it a unique flavor and stuff like that. So everything's not just all like a one little box or it's like an oval shape or anything like that. So again, this is something you can do, and you'll probably ever noticing some patterns as we're going through these different things. We can get into some more in-depth stuff with CSS in terms of some of the different things. We can talk about the height, we can talk about width, we can talk about so many different things that we can get into. But we're going to save some of that stuff for when we actually get into working with Dreamweaver, because it'll just be easier to look at. But this should give you a good amount of basics for when we've looked at HTML and CSS, so you have some fundamental understanding of how some of this stuff works. All right, folks, until next time.